I should have known something was off the moment I laid eyes on it. It was just a secondhand school uniform, no big deal, right? But the moment I put it on, things started to get weird. I wasn't even thinking about it, just trying to save a few bucks by buying something from the market. I had no idea it would turn my entire world upside down. It happened when I walked into class the next morning. As soon as I stepped through the door, everyone's eyes locked onto me. It wasn't like the usual passing glances either. No. People were staring, mouths hanging open like they'd seen something they couldn't believe. I felt a little awkward, but I didn't think too much of it. Maybe it was the new uniform, I thought. I hadn't worn one like that before. But as the day went on, it got worse. My classmates, especially the girls, just couldn't stop looking at me. It was like they were hypnotized or something. I kept trying to get through my classes, but it felt impossible with everyone staring. Even the teachers seemed a little too interested in my every move. At lunch, a few girls came up to me asking if I wanted to sit with them. They were so friendly, like we were long-lost friends. I was confused, but I agreed. That night I started to worry. Was it the uniform? Was it some kind of joke? I decided to wear it again the next day, just to see if it was a fluke. But when I stepped outside the next morning, everything changed. A girl on the street waved at me, then another, and another. It was like I was suddenly a celebrity. I hadn't done anything special, but somehow, everyone I met was drawn to me. I couldn't stop the panic from building in my chest. Something wasn't right, but I had no idea how bad it would get. I stood frozen on the street as a group of girls walked up to me, smiling like they knew me. My heart raced. It wasn't just school anymore, it was everywhere. The uniform had a weird effect on people. I couldn't go anywhere without someone approaching me. At first it was nice. People were kind, friendly, and some even flirted with me. But soon it became overwhelming. Everywhere I went, I was followed by eyes that couldn't seem to look away. On the way to school the next day, I had to dodge a group of girls who followed me for half a mile. They asked if I wanted to hang out after school, and I didn't even know how to respond. I kept walking faster, but they kept up, talking to me like I was some kind of hero. When I got to school, the same thing happened. Everyone treated me like I was famous. People would stop me in the hallways asking to take pictures with me. It felt bizarre. At lunch, I sat down at my usual spot, hoping for a quiet moment. But soon, a crowd gathered around me. People I'd never even talked to before wanted to be my friend, to chat, to hang out. It wasn't just the girls anymore either. Even guys seemed to have suddenly started acting weird around me, as if I had something they wanted. I tried to ignore it, thinking it would pass. But that night, things took an even stranger turn. As I lay in bed, I kept hearing my phone ping. New messages, new notifications. When I checked, I saw dozens of people from school sending me friend requests and messages. They were all complimenting me, telling me how amazing I looked. It felt like I was living in a dream, or maybe a nightmare. The next day, I couldn't even get out the door without running into someone who wanted to talk to me. I was stuck in a never-ending whirlwind of attention, and it felt like it was only going to get worse. I had no idea how much worse. Suddenly, a girl I barely knew walked up to me, pulled me aside, and whispered something in my ear that sent chills down my spine. The girl who pulled me aside had an unsettling look in her eyes. She whispered, "You need to take that uniform off." Her voice was low and urgent, and for a moment I almost felt scared. I wasn't used to people acting like this. It wasn't the kind of warning I expected, but it definitely caught my attention. I asked her what she meant, but she only shook her head. "You don't understand," she said. "That uniform, it's not normal." I stared at her, confused. What was she talking about? Was this some kind of prank? It seemed so strange, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized something was off. This wasn't just about popularity or attention, something more was happening. She quickly glanced around to make sure no one was listening and then added, "You're not the first one, trust me. A few people have worn that same uniform before and it never ends well." I felt a cold shiver run through me. Was she serious? Who else had worn it? And why didn't anyone warn me? Before I could ask more questions, she quickly walked away, blending into the crowd. I stood there, dumbfounded, my mind racing. Was this girl just messing with me, or was there some truth to what she said? Either way, I knew something was wrong. That uniform was causing problems. Big problems. And I wasn't sure if I could stop it. The next day I tried to ignore the warning, but the more people followed me around, the more I realized I was trapped. I had no peace, no privacy. It wasn't just at school anymore. People were following me everywhere I went, home, the store, even down the street. and it was getting harder to shake them off. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. As I sat in class trying to focus, something unexpected happened. The door opened, and in walked the last person I ever expected to see. It was the girl from yesterday, but this time she didn't look normal. She looked different, like she knew something I didn't, and she had a warning in her eyes that made my heart skip a beat. The girl's sudden appearance in class was like a storm rolling in. She walked straight to my desk and sat down next to me without saying a word. Her eyes were fixed on the uniform I was wearing. I could feel her gaze burning into me, and it made me uncomfortable. This wasn't a coincidence. Finally, she whispered, "You have no idea what you're dealing with, do you?" Her voice was tight, like she was holding something back. I had no idea what she meant, but it was starting to make sense. There was something wrong with this uniform, something that was making my life spiral out of control. I could feel it more than ever. She leaned in closer, her voice barely audible. "This uniform, it's enchanted. It's been passed down for years, and whoever wears it becomes irresistible. But there's a price. The more attention you get, the worse it gets." She paused, as if she was deciding how much to tell me. "It doesn't stop. It only gets worse the longer you wear it." I could hardly believe what I was hearing. An enchanted uniform? A price to pay? I wanted to laugh it off, but the way she looked at me made me realize she wasn't joking. She was serious. This wasn't a prank. But before I could ask more questions, the bell rang and she quickly stood up. "You have to get rid of it, now, before it's too late." With that, she walked out of the classroom, leaving me in a state of complete confusion. Could it really be true? Was this all because of the uniform? I didn't know what to do. Should I get rid of it, or should I try to find out more? The thought of being rid of all the attention was tempting, but what if there was more to the story than she had told me? I was about to make a decision when something happened that I didn't expect. The uniform started to glow. The uniform was glowing, and I couldn't figure out why. It wasn't like a simple glow either. It was bright, almost blinding. I quickly ran to the bathroom, hoping no one would see, but I could feel the heat of it against my skin. The glow grew stronger with each step I took, and panic surged in my chest. What was happening? I tried to pull the uniform off, but it wouldn't budge. It felt like it was stuck to me, as if it had a mind of its own. I pulled harder, but it was like the fabric had fused with my body. The more I struggled, the more the glow intensified, making it impossible to think clearly. That's when the girl from earlier appeared again. She was standing at the bathroom door looking worried. "I told you," she said, voice shaky. "It's taking over. You need to get rid of it. Right now." I stared at her, unable to speak. The uniform was suffocating me and I couldn't breathe. The people outside, the crowd that had been following me for days, were getting closer, drawn to the light. They were coming for me. They wanted me. They needed me. But I couldn't run anymore. The glow was too strong. I was too weak. The uniform was in control now, and I had no choice but to follow wherever it led. I took one last look at the girl. She reached out to me, and then, everything went black. Do you think I'll ever escape the grip of the uniform, or am I doomed to its control forever?